Princess Lysra of the Shalkir Empire was known across her people as elegant, sharp, and impossibly serious. Every movement, every word, every glance of hers carried weight and expectation. From a young age, she had been trained to lead, to command, to uphold the honor of her family. She had seen diplomats, ambassadors, and warriors from countless worlds, yet none had ever caused her to pause and laugh until Alex arrived. He was a human, small and unassuming, with messy hair, bright eyes, and an energy that seemed almost chaotic. On his very first day in the palace, he had tripped over the polished marble steps, spilling a tray of alien delicacies onto the floor with a loud crash. He had muttered a string of words in his own language, shrugged sheepishly, and attempted to clean it up. The attendants had stared in shock, the palace guards had frowned, and Lysra had stood frozen, arms crossed, trying not to laugh at the sheer absurdity of it all. "Mother," she said later, her voice tight with a mixture of disbelief and exasperation, "how did our council even agree to bring this human here? He looks ridiculous, clumsy, loud, and completely unaware of our ways. I cannot understand it." Empress Sharina, sitting with serene grace, only smiled. Her eyes were kind but knowing, as if she had seen this before. "Patience, Lysra," she said softly. "There is more to him than you see. Humans are different. They often surprise us." Lysra snorted and shook her head, unconvinced. "Different is not enough. He spills things, trips over his own feet, and laughs at moments when respect is needed. How can he be of any value to us?" The Empress's smile deepened. "Watch him closely. You may learn something important." Despite her mother's words, Lysra found herself struggling to take the human seriously. Over the following days, Alex continued to demonstrate a pattern that annoyed and amused her in equal measure. He mispronounced alien words with confidence, mixed up customs, and somehow managed to wander into areas strictly forbidden to outsiders. Yet each time he met the consequences with a mixture of humility, courage, and a strange, unshakable optimism. One afternoon, Lysra found him in the palace gardens, sitting cross-legged in the soft golden grass, carefully observing the Shalkir butterflies that shimmered with iridescent colors. He had a small notebook in hand, sketching them with lines that were surprisingly accurate. "Why do you spend time doing this?" Lysra asked, her tone sharp, though curiosity crept into it despite herself. Alex looked up, brushing a lock of hair from his face, and smiled. "I want to understand," he said simply. "I may not be one of you, but I want to know your world, your people. I want to do things the right way." Lysra's lips twitched, almost a smile, though she refused to give him that satisfaction. Most humans would never care this much. They think their world is the center of everything. "Not me," Alex said, his gaze steady and honest. "I came here to learn. To help if I can. I don't want to make mistakes, but I know I will. And when I do, I try again." There was something about the way he spoke, something simple but powerful. He didn't pretend to be perfect, yet he had an inner strength that was impossible to ignore. Lysra frowned, her pride fighting with a new and unfamiliar curiosity. Later, as the sun dipped below the horizon and the palace glowed in warm lights, Lysra thought about her mother's words. Perhaps there was something more to this human than she had first believed. Perhaps beneath his awkwardness and clumsy nature lay a courage she had never imagined, but she was still uncertain. Humans, after all, were fragile creatures. Could someone so small and strange truly make a difference in a galaxy filled with warriors, scholars, and rulers who wielded power beyond imagination? As she watched Alex try to lift a heavy ceremonial banner and almost topple over again, she couldn't help but feel a small spark of curiosity. Maybe, just maybe, there was more to this human than even her mother knew. Days passed, and Alex continued his unpredictable presence in the Shalkir palace. Princess Lysra could not deny that the human was still awkward, still loud at times, still spilling things he ought not to. Yet she began noticing something she had never expected, a strange resilience in him. On one morning, Lysra caught him in the palace library, surrounded by towering shelves of ancient texts. He was bent over a book that detailed the history of Shalkir starships, his fingers tracing the diagrams with careful curiosity. "Alex," she said, approaching, "why are you spending time on something so complicated? Most humans would give up immediately." He looked up at her with bright eyes and shrugged. "I don't know," he said simply. "I like learning new things. I like trying even when it's hard. Maybe I'll get it wrong a lot, but at least I'll try." Lysera blinked. He said it as if it were the most natural thing in the universe, yet to her it was extraordinary. She had never met anyone, Shalkir or otherwise, who approached failure with such ease. Most of her world feared mistakes, feared embarrassment, feared dishonor. But Alex, he embraced the struggle. Over the next week, she began seeing him in other situations as well. During training exercises, he tripped and fell more than once, yet he returned to the drills determined to learn. When servants struggled with heavy crates, he helped without complaint, fumbling but sincere. Even palace guards, initially skeptical, started nodding quietly when he offered clever solutions in the midst of chaos. Lysera found herself observing him more closely, though she would never admit it. She noticed how he apologized when he hurt someone by accident, how he laughed at his own mistakes, and how he seemed genuinely curious about everything in the Shalkir world. More than anything, she noticed that people around him began to smile, to trust him, to respect him in ways she had not expected. One afternoon, Lysera decided to test him. She led Alex to a part of the palace where fragile artifacts were displayed. "Be careful," she said, her tone almost mocking. "These are priceless," Alex nodded seriously. "I will. I promise." Minutes later, Lysera watched in astonishment as he carefully examined the artifacts, adjusting a display without touching the fragile pieces directly. When he finished, he stepped back and smiled sheepishly. "I didn't break anything," he said. Lysera's lips twitched in a near smile. You are more careful than I expected," Alex shrugged. "I may be clumsy, but I try to be careful when it matters." It was the first time Lysera had seen him balance his awkwardness with awareness and intelligence. She realized that his strength was not in brute skill or traditional knowledge, it was something different. Something human. Later, in the quiet of the evening, Lysera walked with her mother in the palace gardens. "Mother," she began cautiously, "I don't understand him. He is clumsy, he trips, he laughs at things he shouldn't, but somehow I keep seeing people respond to him differently. They like him, they trust him. How?" Empress Sharina stopped and regarded her daughter with calm eyes. "Lysera, humans are strange creatures. They are fragile, yes, but they have courage that is not always obvious. They act when others hesitate. They endure hardships without complaint, and sometimes in the smallest ways they inspire hope." Lysera frowned, still skeptical. "Hope from a human?" Her mother nodded. "Yes. Remember, Princess, strength is not only measured by skill, size, or tradition. There are forms of strength you cannot predict, and this human may show you one you never imagined." That night, as Lysera lay in her chambers, she thought of Alex. She remembered his bright smile when he succeeded, his persistence when he failed, and the way he had helped the palace staff without expectation of reward. Slowly, a sense of admiration grew inside her, mingled with confusion. She did not yet understand the depth of his courage, nor the quiet power he carried. But something told her that this human, awkward, strange, and utterly unlike anyone she had ever met, might change the way she saw her world forever. And perhaps, she thought, that was worth watching. Despite the small moments of admiration, Princess Lysera could not fully accept Alex. His strange ways continued to frustrate her. He wandered into restricted areas, questioned long-held traditions, and laughed at things she considered serious. In the palace, whispers spread of his unusual behavior, and even Lysera's guards began exchanging doubtful glances. One morning, Lysera found Alex in the armory, holding a weapon far larger than his human body could handle. He was trying to lift it with a mixture of determination and awkwardness, and the entire display wobbled dangerously. "Alex, put that down!" she exclaimed, rushing forward. He turned, cheeks red, but smiled sheepishly. "I just wanted to see if I could—" "You could break centuries of craftsmanship if you are not careful." Lysera snapped, exasperated. Alex nodded quickly, carefully setting the weapon down. I didn't mean to. I like learning about it." Lysera groaned. "You are reckless. You don't understand the rules of this palace, and yet you act like nothing can harm you." Her mother, Empress Sharina, had often warned her that humans were different, but Lysera found it impossible to reconcile this cheerful, clumsy human with the dignity of the Shalkir Empire. He seemed incapable of fear, of shame, or of concern for protocol, and yet she could not ignore a growing sense of unease mixed with curiosity. A few days later, a minor accident occurred in the palace gardens. A large tree branch, weakened by storms, broke and began to fall toward a group of palace attendants. Lysera froze in horror, unsure what to do, but Alex reacted instantly. He rushed forward, pushing one of the attendants out of harm's way and catching the branch in a precarious grip. His human muscles strained, but he managed to divert the branch just enough to prevent disaster. Lysera stared, stunned. The human she had thought ridiculous had acted with speed, courage, and quick thinking beyond what most of her people could muster. How did you do that?" she whispered, her voice trembling. Alex, panting slightly, shrugged. "I just acted. I didn't think. I couldn't let anyone get hurt." Her frustration turned to confusion. Here was a being who had no training in Shalkir combat, no knowledge of palace safety. Yet he had instinctively made the right choice. The attendants whispered their gratitude, and even the guards nodded in approval. Later that evening, Lysera confronted her mother. "Mother, why did you bring him here? He seems chaotic, reckless, and ridiculous at times. But today he saved lives without knowing how." Empress Sharina regarded her daughter with calm, patient eyes. "Lysera, humans do not have our strength or our history of training, but they have a courage that is innate. They act when others hesitate. They see danger, and often without thinking, they protect others. That is their gift. That is why he is here." Lysera's chest tightened. She had judged Alex too quickly, assuming that skill, training, and tradition were the only measures of worth. Yet in one swift, instinctive action, he had shown her that humans could possess a strength of spirit that no formal training could teach. Over the next few days, Lysera found herself observing him more closely. She saw how he helped the palace staff without expectation, how he comforted frightened servants, and how he seemed to find solutions to problems the most skilled Shalkir often overlooked. His clumsiness remained, but it was paired with a quiet determination that left her unsettled. By the end of the week, Lysera realized something she had not expected. Frustration was slowly giving way to respect. She still did not fully understand Alex, but she could no longer dismiss him as ridiculous. He had begun to show her that strength was not always measured in skill, power, or tradition. Sometimes it was measured by the courage to act when it mattered most, and deep inside, Lysera felt the first stirrings of a thought that both excited and terrified her. Maybe this human, strange and chaotic as he was, could teach her something her people had never known. The day came when Alex's courage would be tested in a way no one could have anticipated. The Shalkir were holding a demonstration of their advanced war fleet, showcasing the power of their starships and the precision of their pilots. Citizens from across the empire had gathered, eager to witness the display. Princess Lysera, standing on the balcony above, observed the proceedings with a mixture of pride and quiet unease. She still could not completely trust the human, but a part of her now watched him with a hesitant curiosity. The demonstration began flawlessly. Ships soared through the skies, moving with perfect synchronization. The crowd cheered, the Empress nodded in approval, and Lysera allowed herself a small sense of pride in her people. Alex, as usual, fumbled slightly with the controls on a small observation drone he had been allowed to operate. Yet he smiled, laughed at his mistakes, and tried again with relentless determination. Suddenly, a malfunction occurred. One of the smaller starships, a prototype carrying vital supplies, malfunctioned mid-flight. Its engines sputtered, alarms blared, and the craft began a dangerous descent toward the city below. Panic erupted among the spectators and pilots. Guards shouted orders, but the ship's trajectory was unpredictable and time was short. Lysera froze, her heart pounding. She had been trained for emergencies, yet fear gripped her. The humans nearby screamed and pointed. No one seemed to know what to do. And then, Alex acted. Without hesitation, he leapt forward, gripping the controls of his observation drone. With a mixture of instinct, quick thinking, and sheer courage, he interfaced the drone with the malfunctioning starship's navigation system. His small hands moved rapidly, inputs precise yet almost desperate. Sweat dotted his forehead. His breaths came fast, but he did not waver. Lysera watched, breathless, as the starship's descent slowly corrected. The craft steadied, avoiding buildings, citizens, and guards. Cheers erupted as the starship touched down safely, its engines sputtering but intact. The crowd's fear turned to awe. The Shalkir pilots looked at him in disbelief. Lysera could hardly speak. How did you do that?" she whispered, staring at Alex as if seeing him for the first time. He blinked, slightly embarrassed, shrugging as if it were nothing. I just tried to help. I couldn't let anyone get hurt." he said simply, his voice quiet but steady. Empress Sharina approached Lysira, her expression gentle. "Do you see now, my daughter?" she asked softly. "Humans are not the strongest physically nor the most skilled by training. But they have courage in ways even we cannot predict. They act when others hesitate. They find solutions when logic fails, and they protect life even at great risk." Lysira's chest tightened with a mixture of awe and newfound respect. She had judged him, mocked him, even called him ridiculous. Yet here he was, her human, acting with bravery that surpassed most of the warriors she had ever known. The crowd surrounded him afterward, expressing gratitude, cheering and shaking his hands. Even the most disciplined Shalkir pilots bowed their heads in quiet admiration. And through it all, Alex remained humble, brushing off praise with a shy smile. That night, Lysira could not sleep. She replayed the event in her mind, remembering every detail. The panic, the falling ship, the way Alex had moved without hesitation, and the life he had saved. She realized something profound. Humans were different. Yes, fragile even, but capable of courage that defied logic, size, and expectation. For the first time, Lysira understood that strength was not measured solely in skill, tradition, or power. It was measured in action, in heart, in the willingness to stand when others could not. And in that understanding, she felt a deep shift within herself. The human she had called ridiculous had shown her a new kind of heroism, one that was quiet, unwavering, and entirely human. For the first time, she looked at Alex not with amusement or skepticism, but with awe, wonder, and something that felt dangerously close to admiration. That evening, Princess Lysira sat alone in her chambers, the events of the day replaying over and over in her mind. Alex had saved lives, acted with courage, and yet remained humble. She could not shake the feeling that she had misjudged him from the very beginning. The human she had called ridiculous had shown a bravery that even her most skilled warriors rarely displayed. Her mother, Empress Sharina, entered quietly, her presence calm but commanding. "Lysira, I see you are troubled," she said softly. Lysira turned, eyes wide. "Mother, I don't understand him. How can someone so small, so human, do what he did today? He wasn't trained, he doesn't know our ways, and yet he saved lives. How is that possible?" The Empress sat beside her daughter and took her hand gently. "Lysira, humans are different from us. They are fragile, yes, and often unpredictable. But within that fragility lies a courage that cannot be measured by skill or tradition. They act when others hesitate. They endure fear that would stop many, and they protect others even when their own safety is at risk." Lysira listened, her heart pounding. She remembered every stumble, every mistake Alex had made, and now she saw it differently. "But he is clumsy. He laughs at things we take seriously. How can someone so ordinary possess this courage?" Her mother smiled. "It is precisely because of their ordinariness that humans can do extraordinary things. They are not bound by pride, by fear of failure, or by the weight of expectation. When a human acts, it is often instinct, heart, and will combined. That is their strength." Lysira's chest tightened. She had judged Alex too quickly, dismissing him because he did not fit her expectations. Yet now the truth was undeniable. He had shown her a type of courage she had never seen in her own people, a courage that came not from training or birthright, but from the spirit itself. "Mother, is that why you brought him here?" she asked, voice barely a whisper. Sharina nodded. "Yes, Lysira. I wanted you to see that strength can take many forms. Humans are often underestimated, and yet they can change worlds not through power or fear, but through courage, kindness, and determination. This human, Alex, is here to teach us that lesson." Lysira felt a wave of emotion she could not name. Pride, awe, confusion, and respect mingled within her. She had thought Alex ridiculous, clumsy, and unworthy of attention, but now she understood. His heart, his courage, and his determination were extraordinary. I see it now, Mother," she whispered, tears brimming. "He isn't remarkable." Sharina squeezed her hand. "Yes, my daughter, and you too must learn to see beyond appearances. Courage is often hidden where you least expect it." Lysira sat quietly, reflecting on the revelation. Alex had challenged everything she thought she knew about strength, about bravery, about the heart. And in that realization, she felt the first stirrings of a profound change, not just in how she saw him, but in how she saw herself and her people. The next morning, Lysera found Alex practicing with a small training weapon in the palace courtyard. He was as clumsy as ever, yet there was a quiet determination in his movements that she had begun to notice. She approached him slowly, unsure how to begin. "Alex," she said softly, causing him to turn and smile. "I owe you an apology." He tilted his head, surprised but curious. "For what?" "For the way I judged you," she said, her voice steady. "I thought you were ridiculous, clumsy, and foolish. But I see now. You're brave, kind, and strong in ways I never imagined." Alex blinked, then laughed softly, a sound that was unself-conscious and warm. "I never wanted to impress anyone," he said. "I just try to do what's right." Lysera smiled, feeling a warmth spread through her chest. "You have taught me more than I can say. You've shown me a kind of strength I didn't know existed. My people could learn from you." Alex's smile widened, but he shook his head modestly. "I don't know if I'm teaching anything. I just live the way I can." Lysera nodded. "That's exactly it. You live with courage, with heart, and with hope, and that is more powerful than I ever realized." Over the following days, Lysera began to observe him differently. She noticed how he comforted frightened servants, helped guards solve unexpected problems, and approached every challenge with patience and determination. His awkwardness was still there, but it now felt endearing, almost inspiring. One afternoon, she asked him to help her review a map of the city. He studied it carefully, asked thoughtful questions, and suggested solutions she had never considered. She realized that his perspective, simple as it seemed, was valuable and wise in its own way. Lysera felt a quiet shift within herself. She no longer saw Alex as clumsy or ridiculous. She saw him as someone extraordinary. He had opened her eyes to a new kind of heroism. A heroism that came not from tradition, power, or skill, but from heart, courage, and the will to act when it mattered most. By the time the sun set, Lysera had made a decision. She would not dismiss him again. Instead, she would learn from him, watch him, and perhaps even follow his example. Humans, she realized, were capable of greatness far beyond their small size and fragile appearance. Standing beside him on the courtyard balcony, she said softly, I understand now. Courage is not always what we expect. Sometimes it comes from those we never think could have it." Alex smiled, gently nudging her shoulder. "We all have courage inside us, Princess. Sometimes it just takes the right moment to show it." And in that moment, Lysera knew the human had changed something inside her forever. Weeks passed, and the bond between Princess Lysera and Alex grew stronger. What had started as curiosity, then grudging respect, became a quiet admiration that neither of them fully understood yet. The palace staff and even the citizens began to notice the change. Alex, still awkward and human, had become a figure people trusted. Lysera had begun to see him not as an outsider, but as someone whose heart and courage could not be measured by size, strength, or tradition. One evening, the palace received alarming news. A fleet of rogue ships from a distant sector had entered the Shalkir border, threatening the city. The palace erupted into controlled chaos. Warriors readied their weapons, diplomats prepared emergency protocols, and the Empress called for strategic counsel. Lysera felt her chest tighten. She had trained her whole life for crises, yet fear and uncertainty pricked at her mind. Alex, however, did not hesitate. He moved through the corridors, helping to organize civilians, giving clear instructions, and even calming frightened palace attendants. Despite being human without any formal combat training, he acted with clarity, courage, and determination. Lysera watched in awe. His actions were not guided by protocol, pride, or duty. They came from instinct, from heart, from a desire to protect life. During the battle, a smaller Shalkir vessel was caught in the middle of enemy fire. Its systems failed, and it plummeted toward the crowded city below. Lysera froze, unsure what to do, but Alex acted immediately. Using his quick thinking, he coordinated the emergency response, guided the vessel to safety, and even helped evacuate the injured with improvised techniques. When the chaos settled and the rogue fleet retreated, the city was intact with no lives lost. Citizens cheered not only for the Shalkir warriors, but also for the human who had risked everything to protect them. Lysera stood on the palace balcony, her eyes wide with awe and admiration. She finally understood what her mother had meant. Humans could achieve greatness not through size or tradition, but through heart and courage. That night, as the stars shimmered across the sky, Lysera approached Alex, The city lights reflected in his eyes, and for the first time she saw him not as clumsy or ridiculous, but as someone extraordinary. "Alex," she said softly, "today you saved lives. Not just because you acted, but because you cared when it mattered most. I understand now. Humans are remarkable." Alex shook his head humbly. "I didn't do it for praise, I just couldn't let anyone get hurt. I guess that's all any of us can do." Lacera smiled, her heart full. "You've taught me something important, something I will never forget. True strength is not only skill or power. It is courage, heart, and the will to act even when the odds seem impossible." He smiled back, a simple, warm smile that seemed to light the night. "And humans aren't the only ones with courage, Princess. Everyone has it, if they choose to act." Lysera laughed softly, a sound of relief and joy, feeling a deep connection she had never expected. She realized that the human she had once thought ridiculous had changed her perspective forever. He had shown her that ordinary beings could do extraordinary things, that heart mattered as much as strength, and that courage could come in the smallest, most unexpected forms. From that day onward, Lysera saw her people and her world differently. She trusted Alex, relied on him for counsel, and valued the lessons he had shown her. And when she watched him move through the palace, awkward, human, yet fearless in his own way, she felt a quiet sense of pride and wonder. Standing together on the balcony, looking at the stars that stretched endlessly above, Lysera whispered, "Thank you for showing me what courage really is." Alex looked at her, eyes soft. "We all have lessons to teach each other, Princess. Sometimes it just takes the right moment to show them." And in that moment, Lysera knew the truth. Humans, chaotic, fragile, unpredictable, could change the course of worlds. And perhaps, just perhaps, the galaxy was better for it.